What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for the finale of building the UCS Acclamator in Lego. Man, I feel like I say this every time I do a finale video, but I can't believe it's finally here. You get to a point in a mock project where there's just so many little things that need to be done, and it still looks like it's so far away from completion that it feels like it'll never be done. And honestly, just a couple of weeks ago, I was kind of feeling that way. So to now have it just be completely finished, ready to display, ready to put up behind me on the shelves. It feels weird, but it feels really cool. I'm really excited for you guys to see it. It turned out really good. But before I get into the video, there are a couple things I want to say first. And the first of those is I want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to a couple of other Acclamator designers. Whether they know it or not, they really helped with the design and building process of my Acclamator. There are two people in particular. I'll put the links to both of their Acclamators down below in the description. I would highly recommend checking them both out. They both did phenomenal work. I definitely used some of their techniques and ideas to help form my Acclamator. The second guy, I did also use his micro scale gunship to kind of inspire and base mine off of as well. Now, I want to get into the dimensions of the ship. So the Acclamator is about 35 feet long, 19 inches wide, and about 15 inches tall. So it's a big boy. In fact, I was trying to decide which side I was going to display it on, and I realized it won't even fit in this side because it's not tall enough because of this shelf. So it's definitely going to be going over here. It took me 12 episodes or about 3 months or so to complete. This being my first vehicle mock, I'm really excited for you guys to see how it turned out. This is definitely not going to be like the best vehicle mock you've ever seen. I'm pretty happy for my first vehicle project. All that being said, I feel like I've hyped it up enough. Time to go take a look. Here it is, everybody. My LEGO Star Wars UCS scaled Acclamator class assault ship. It's finally all finished and ready for you guys to see. So I've never really showcased a large scale vehicle before. So I think what I'm going to do is just start at the front and then just kind of move my way to the back and kind of point out cool things or explain certain features. So starting up here at the front, we've got the stand underneath. This holds up the front part of the ship, and then you've got 2 more legs there in the back. The reason it's so close to the front is because these panels can't support any kind of weight. And so really my only options were to put one on either side or here in the front, and I figured here in the front would work best. It doesn't look too bad. It is kind of long compared to the other ones, but I can live with that. Up here on the top, we've got some greebling. I actually had a lot of fun with the greebling. I just kind of picked a few base patterns and techniques and just kind of repeated those over and over. So you'll see a lot of the same looking techniques as the greebling goes along, but like the 2 sides don't mirror each other. So the other side, the greebling, looks a little different, but it's the same general concept. Moving up the middle, you've got the large red section of the Acclamator. I feel like this especially is very iconic to the Republic class assault ships. You've got the large red stripe on the Acclamator, and then you've got the large red section on the Venator, which actually opens up, and that's how the ships leave. That's not how the Acclamator works, but I still really like this section. I tiled off most of it. I didn't want to tile all of it off. I kind of liked the combination of plate and tile. On the middle area of the ship, I've got the Republic Navy insignia on both sides. So these are tiled. I did have a suggestion to get like a decaled sticker that would be more round, and that would be cool. I would like to do that in the future at some point, but for now, I just left it tiled. I think it looks all right. It is a little bit blocky, but as you kind of step back, it kind of, the blockiness goes away and you can kind of see the logo a little bit better. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, especially since it was my own design. Now, moving on to the underside of the ship. With the exception of the frame, this was probably the hardest thing to design and build, because typically most large scale Star Wars ships are just one solid wedge shape. So you've got the wedge angle on the top and then just mirrored on the bottom. But the unique thing about the Acclamator is the sides are all flat, and then you have a smaller wedge section in the middle of that. So I had to learn how to combine both a flat section and a wedge-shaped section together, which was really tough. If you're interested to see how that all came together, I would suggest checking out my update videos where I showed you how this section came together. All in all, I'm pretty happy with how it looks. It's got a pretty nice ratio of plate and tile. I honestly could have just left it all plate, but because, you know, you wouldn't really see the underside, but I wanted to add that extra level of detail and just show, like, you know, this is a UCS scaled build. I wanted to take the time and make this look as good as possible. Here was another really tough section. That wedge, this wedge shape has to butt into the underbelly of the ship. So this is where the troops and vehicles and other stuff in the ship would exit. A large door would drop down like this, and they would come marching out. So that's why this underbelly is so big. Now, directly underneath the bridge, we have the two legs. This is probably the sturdiest and heaviest part of the ship. This is brick built inside of here, so you've got a square brick frame, and this is kind of like where the base of the frame all comes together. So I wanted the legs to be under that, the strongest part of the ship. Here's a look at one of the side panels. So just imagine like a large door coming down right here. Initially I was going to put that in the ship, but this project turned out to be a much bigger challenge than I anticipated. So maybe one day in the future, if I take this to any conventions or anything, I'll add a door in right there. The feet are nothing crazy, just solid black, and they are connected. At first, these two legs weren't connected to each other, but they wobbled around, and I felt like that really compromised the sturdiness of this build. So now that they're connected, you can see it's much stronger, so I don't have to worry about these legs buckling. Up here on the top, we've got a couple of micro-scale gunships escorting the Acclamator. One of the reasons why I really wanted to include some micro-scale builds is because I really feel like it helps give you the scale of the ship even better, because, you know, this thing's big, but when you see this gunship and how small it is compared to that Acclamator, it just makes the ship feel so much bigger than it actually is. These were loosely based off of the micro-scale gunships that other Acclamator designer used, the one that I was talking about in the beginning. Moving on to the back of the ship, we've got some more markings. I don't really know what these ones are supposed to represent, something probably to do with the Republic Navy. And then right here, this section of wedge plates is actually used to cover up a big gap right here. So because of the way that I had to build this, these wedge plates actually come in at an angle. You can see right here, they're closer together at the front than they are the back. Typically, they'll have the connection connect straight on. So like if it was this close at the front, it would run up here and then connect up here with the same distance. But I wasn't able to get the right width I needed for the build by doing that. So I had to stick both of these panels at an angle. That way they would create a wider shell for the Acclamator. So this caused these plates to not line up directly with these. So these are just there to cover up that gap. I feel like they do it pretty nicely. You can kind of see it right there, but I don't think that's too big of a deal. Moving up to the bridge. So the Acclamator is a single bridge ship, unlike the Venator, which has two. It was pretty easy to do, honestly, a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. There is one thing that is kind of not accurate, kind of accurate. So some versions of the Acclamator actually don't have any kind of a windshield up here. They actually just have a bunch of super high-tech computers that simulate, you know, what you would see through a window. However, in some episodes of the Clone Wars, they had actual windows. So I decided to go with the version that had actual windows just because I felt like that looked cooler than just having this entire section all light bluish gray. Helps give it a little pop of color. The bridge comes off pretty easily, it just pops off like that. It was fairly circular. I was able to capture that circular shape using these cheese slopes. I have these ones on their side on the bottom, and then the ones on top are just set normal. I'm pretty happy with how circular I was able to get this looking. As you guys know, circular builds are pretty tough to accomplish in LEGO, but I feel like this one does the job all right. A shout out to the other Acclamator designer. I got the inspiration for using these little rounded pieces on the top from his build. One more interesting aspect about the bridge that I want to point out. So this is actually 3 studs wide, and it's on a base that's 12 studs wide. So Lego builders know you can't really put something that's an odd number in the direct center of something that's an even number, but I was able to work around that using some of these 1x2 jumper plates with 1 stud in the middle. So it actually only connects to this middle stud, which allows you to connect something that's an odd number directly in the center on a base that's even. So that was a pretty cool little thing. If anybody's trying to work with something like that, I would recommend using those jumper plates. Now I'm moving on to my favorite part of this entire build, and that is the rear section. I feel like this section turned out the best, and I am the most proud of what I was able to achieve back here. So this was the first place that I attempted greebling, and honestly this is the greebling I'm the most happy with. Most of it is just kind of random stuff that I kind of made up, but these 2 things are actually in the actual ship. So these are supposed to be rear reactor clasps. So once these are released, apparently you're supposed to be able to either take out or move this engine for repairs and stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool, and that was one thing that I did want to keep accurate to the ship. The greebling continues on up here right underneath the bridge and then comes over to this other side. So these 2 sides, unlike the front of the Acclamator, actually mirror each other pretty similarly. And I did this because you can see both at the same time. So it's nice to have a matchup. It just creates a nice symmetrical picture. Whereas the other sides, you're never going to see the 2 sides at the same time, really. Underneath that, we've got one of the tougher sections to build on the back, and that was these large rear reactors. This one consists of just a few of the inner wheel pieces with a translite blue dish on the end. These were connected to the body by just one of those long Technic pins that just sticks in right there, and because they're so light, they don't lean at all. These ones, on the other hand, were a lot tougher to build. First, considering I had to actually build the shape of the round reactor and then figure out how to connect it to the body. So this one has some of those long Technic pins in the actual reactor, and then there's a section in the back here that connects to a little square support holder that I built, basically like a square like this with studs on the side, and then this connects directly into that. You can see I did a pretty good job of making it not lean. It does lean slightly, but it's so little that I think you can't really tell, and it looks fine to me. And then on the back we've got some more trans light blue bricks to represent the reactor being powered on. Then you've got the exact same thing mirrored on the other side. I'm really happy with how these look. Like I said earlier, this is definitely my favorite section of the Acclamator. In between those, we've got this large rear section. So this rear section basically just houses power modules for the Acclamator. You've got the hyperdrive reactor back here, got some cooling systems up here, basically just a bunch of stuff that helps power the ship. It was pretty easy to build. Really, it's mostly just brick built, and then I've got these plates stuck on the side to kind of give it an angled look going down, and to give it a little bit of a sloped look going down like this. You can see up at the top it's much thinner and then gets thicker as it goes down to the bottom, and I did that to kind of make it look like it was on an angle like that, because it was tough to get these plates to go at an angle this way and that way. And then the back here is just some plates and tiles. Nothing too fancy, but I feel like it comes together rather nicely. Honestly, I think I might make it just a little bit shorter this way in the future. We'll see. For now, I'm done with it. I definitely don't really want to be working on this anymore. I can't wait to set it up and display it. Well guys, that pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to show you for this ship. Here's a quick look at the other side. You can see basically a mirror representation of the first side. I hope you guys like the ship. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. All that being said, it's time to go hit the outro. I hope you guys enjoyed the Acclamator build. I had a blast building this. It was so much fun and so rewarding at the end to be able to see that beautiful finished display piece that I can now display proudly behind me as my own creation. I want to give a huge thank you and a huge shout out to all of you guys who have been watching the series since day one, or those of you who joined later, even if you're watching this video and seeing the Acclamator for the first time. Thank you, huge thank you to you guys. The Acclamator videos did pretty well. That revenue really helped to pay and fund the Moc, as well as you Patreons. Thank you guys. Your monthly donations have definitely helped fund the Acclamator as well. And thank you to those of you who gave me constructive feedback, constructive criticism, emailed me ideas. I really do appreciate it. And it was so good to interact with you guys and have fun building this together on the live streams. All that being said, that wraps up this video. Don't forget to let me know what you think about the Acclamator down below in the comments. And of course, if you liked the video, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing because I have very exciting things to come. But until next time, happy building.